Cleveland Browns dismantle the Cincinnati Bengals today, winning by 3 touchdowns, score of 24-3. The offense, not so sharp. Defense, ridiculously sharp. Your victory Monday, Locked On Browns, starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, and for the second season in a row, we're going to talk about a Cleveland Browns Week 1 win here on Victory Monday. I appreciate all of you who make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day, and join the everyday crowd, which is only going to get bigger by joining. Subscribing to the Locked On Browns YouTube page. And of course, Locked On Browns is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcast. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Well, boys and girls, let's be honest. The team went into this game today, and there was a lot of talk through national media, local media about where this Browns team was. And yes, there were some imperfections. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't perfect. But what you saw today from this team is a team that can persevere, and a team that maybe is starting to shift from what they used to be a few years ago, where everybody thought about the Browns offense, which may have been overhyped, now to where this Cleveland Browns team has a ridiculously good defense. Deshaun Watson. Look, there were a lot of passes that were short, and it was interesting that, there were excuses made for Joe Burrow's play today in this weather, but Deshaun Watson playing in the same weather, those excuses were not necessarily made for Deshaun Watson. Either way, you saw the full package of what Deshaun Watson can be with the legs. Huge, obviously, the touchdown run to make it 10-0 right before halftime. And the other thing with Deshaun, what you saw today, and took that shot and was like right under the 2-minute mark, and was hit low, was hit high. Next thing you know, he was bleeding from his nose. But all of a sudden, Deshaun Watson started to play a lot better after he received that hit. Maybe just trying to be too perfect. I had some thoughts about his first start last year when he debuted in Houston, going against his former team after the entirety and the lengthiness of his layoff. And Deshaun went out there and tried to basically make everything happen with one throw. You got to play within yourself. You got to pace yourself. And I think Deshaun did a really good job with that today. Was able to find his groove, hit some throws. The interception was tipped. But, I will say Deshaun probably should have taken that ball and ran with it. But you're trying to make things happen. When you play with a lead, you can be afforded those type of luxuries. Lots to get to here on the offensive side of the ball. Over 200 yards on the ground here. Nick Chubb, over 100 yards, almost 6 yards per carry. Death taxes Nick Chubb. You know what you're going to get from this guy every single time he takes the field for this franchise. And 4 receptions, I think, was 21 yards. I tried to say Nick's receiving numbers are going to pick up this year. You're going to see a little bit more out of Nick as a receiver than we have in years past. Maybe today was a little bit dictated by the weather, which is fine. But Nick is going to be a factor within this passing game, and you saw some of that today. Nick catching the ball on the run, which is something we have not been too familiar with in his time here with the Browns. Amari Cooper, a couple of receptions. Obviously, we all had that little scare. Ball and foot slipping as he was trying to gain himself to catch. It was great enough to still catch the pass. I think everybody had their collective hearts in a basket there for a second, but Amari did go on, did continue the game, did finish the game, was a contributor. Elijah Moore. It was a 33-yard reception, and it was a 19-yard run. You see what they think they have in Elijah Moore. It's this burstability. It's this, basically blast in a glass type of personality, type of talent that Elijah Moore is. It doesn't have to be a ton of touches. It just has to be trying to get this guy the ball in open space and let his natural athleticism take over. So it was very impressive from Elijah Moore in those respects in his debut. Not a lot, much more. Look, a passing game obviously was south of 170 yards that they threw for, so not a lot there. You didn't get to see the offensive line try to show themselves like we've known this offensive line to be. Batonio, Teller going around, and I talked about this. They were going to run more outside zone against the Cincinnati Bengals than we may see down the road. The Bengals are stout up front. B.J. Hill, DJ Reader, they're linebackers. They are a really good unit that way. You've got to play them east to west. You can't play them north to south. They are just too good. But you saw the offensive line show their impact and show what we have seen from them in the past. And Nick, with his patience, his cutback ability, was able to find a lot of extra yards, was able to break tackles for a lot of extra yards. We saw one run that went set for 7 yards. You saw Bengals defenders aggravated with the fact they felt they strung him out. They felt they either had a 0 gain or a negative gain. And the next thing you know, it was 2nd and 3 because Nick Chubb found the cutback lane, ran through arm tackles, and was able to get positive yardage for his team. Jack Conklin, obviously not a good thing. You assume it's probably not a good thing. You assume it could be possibly season ending. But the good thing is, and not for Jack Conklin, obviously before this team, is DeJuan Jones went out there, and we didn't hear much about DeJuan Jones. Here's a rookie getting thrown in. Wasn't expected to play, just getting tossed into the mix in his first NFL game. No penalties, not getting beat. DeJuan Jones held his own. And the future for the Browns at right tackle may have just started today. So offensively, there were some warts. And look, for Watson, there were some balls that were skipped. A couple of the balls to Goodwin, maybe they were late. Maybe weather affected them. Maybe people just aren't used to the speed that Marquise Goodwin brings to an NFL offense. All of these could be possibly the case. But offensively, you have an idea of where this team is. They want to throw the ball more. They just got to get the spacing a little bit better. Deshaun's got to get a little more confident. Don't play overly confident. Play confident. And I think that was the thing that Deshaun Watson battled with today. Because you saw when Deshaun Watson was using his legs and trying to be the playmaker that he could be, you saw the total package of what Deshaun Watson is. When he tried to be more and try to play a little hero ball, it did not work out as well for him. But overall, offensively, look, it's over 200 yards. You kept the Bengals off the field. That is the most important thing when you play a team like the Cincinnati Bengals, Kansas City Chiefs, Buffalo Bills, the high-powered offenses of the AFC. If they're not on the field, they cannot do as much damage. And these are the things that the Browns can do. Yes, they want to gravitate to more of a passing offense. Yes, they want to feature Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Elijah Moore, Deshaun Watson, David Njoku, go on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the key to it all is when you're playing the better teams is find a way that their offenses, which those teams that I just mentioned are extremely good, aren't on the field. And the Browns were able to control the field today. Time of possession, they were able to do all of that. And it was just absolutely a thing of beauty. We're going to continue on here. Jeff Lloyd, your latest Locked On Browns. I appreciate each and every one of you for being along for the ride. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. It's simple. Draw up what you are looking for, skills, experience, what type of computer skills they need. And then you add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you would like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Jeff Lloyd, your latest Locked On Browns. Obviously, the Cleveland Browns, big winners today. Victory Monday. Obviously, the graphics are not working here, but hey, it is still Victory Monday. Cleveland Browns are 24-3, 3 touchdown winners over your Cleveland Browns. As everybody remembers, I said I thought the Browns were going to win 34-23. They won 24-3. I don't want to hear the excuses for Joe Burrow. I told you all this was going to be a very, very difficult game for Joe Burrow to return to. With that calf, this Cleveland Browns defense that has had so much success against him, the defensive line, which is now a revolving door of talent. The old Cleveland Browns defensive lines weren't very good, but they always played their best against Joe Burrow. The guys that are now part of this Cleveland Browns defensive line, and you saw Ogbo, you saw Zadarius Smith early with a pass breakup as he hit Burrow on a throw. You certainly saw Dalvin Tomlinson. You saw Shelby Harris involved. This new Cleveland Browns defensive line is a solid unit. Defense coordinator Jim Schwartz brought here because the Browns could just not have these issues on the defensive side of the ball anymore. So you go out, you bring in this brand name A-list defensive coordinator, but you had to get him the pieces. And that was the key for Andrew Berry, and certainly that was the key for the Browns franchise, and if certainly Jimmy Haslett spending that money. You bring in the talent they did. Joe Burrow, you could see, whether he was nervous about the leg on the soggy field, whether he was nervous about his grip on the ball, putting a glove on, which he doesn't normally do. And again, I don't want to hear the excuses. Deshaun Watson, the Cleveland Browns offense, had to play in the same elements today. But Joe Burrow looked like a guy who was not ready to be out there. Either that or the Cleveland Browns defense is that good that they are now in Joe Burrow's head. You saw, and we heard throughout the entire game, and we heard the entirety of the entire time that Jim Schwartz has been here. I want to keep things simple. I want to play a lot of man coverage. I have faith in Denzel Ward. I have faith in Greg Newsome. I have faith in Martin Emerson Jr. Well, guess what? Box checked, box checked, box checked. Denzel Ward looked fantastic today, albeit a 21-yard pass interference penalty, which was probably the Cincinnati Bengals' largest play today, by the way. Ticky-tack foul. That's one that can go either way. Denzel got snagged for it. Martin Emerson, couple pass breakups. Of course, Greg Newsome, couple pass breakups as well. These guys are showing their defensive coordinator how much they appreciate the faith and the belief he has in them. These guys balled out today against one of the best wide receiver units in the entire NFL. I will say the best, but you always got to leave that mark in case there is somebody that's a little bit better. But today, the Cleveland Browns cornerbacks were 10 times better than the Cincinnati Bengals wide receivers. They were all over them. Yes, Burrow was slow getting the ball out. Yes, Burrow was inaccurate. All of those things are true. But at the end of the day, the Browns corners played better than the Bengals wide receivers. There's no question about that. And can we chat a tad bit about Mr. Grant Delpit? In my opinion, this was Grant Delpit's best day as a Cleveland Brown, whether it was in the backfield, whether it was cutting ball carriers, pass receivers short of first down yardage. Grant Delpit was ridiculous today, all over the field. And this is after we got the news, of course, by about 11:30 when the inactives came out, that new Browns free safety Juan Thornhill was going to be unable to go today. Certainly some pause, some hesitation, and a little concern. The Browns paid good money for Juan Thornhill. We saw some dividends, obviously, week 4 of the preseason when the Browns played the Kansas City Chiefs. Juan had a pick six. But Rodney McLeod, you saw the impact early from Rodney McLeod. But Grant Delpit, with Thornhill brought in, with McLeod brought in, you saw the whole Grant Delpit package today. Obviously, the coverage on T. Higgins was another highlight of his day. You want to talk about filling out like the plethora of charts, like everything you would ask from a safety, Grant Delpit was able to do today. It was crazy impressive and good for Grant Delpit, and really good for Grant Delpit, as you are currently in a contract year. The defensive line and getting to see these guys. If you take out the 22-yard run by Joe Mixon, I guess that was late second quarter, this Bengals didn't run. They didn't run with any success. And this is the thing I talked about during the preseason. Jim Schwartz's defense was freeing up linebackers, and they were allowing them to make plays, and they were not getting gashed on the run like this team who gave up 138 yards per game on the ground last year. You got to see some other things. You got to see different things. I saw a lot of 5 men on the defensive line, 6 men on the defensive line. Some guys walk back, and even times you get even more aggressive, went 7. Jim Schwartz definitely has that Ron Rivera riverboat gambler mentality to him. He is going to go after. If the quarterback doesn't throw the ball, the quarterback cannot beat you. So you see that with Jim Schwartz. We got to see the early sack from Agba Okoronkwo. Obviously, everything collapsed, and if you saw on that play, Myles Garrett was about 2 yards off the line of scrimmage between the guards and the center, and kind of just wallowing back and just trying to pick what spot was going to be his. He shot the A-gap. Other guys came with him. Joe Burrow stepped up. Ogbonnaya Okoronkwo with an easy gimme sack, his first one in Cleveland, and hopefully many, many more. Later in the game, the Bengals 4th and 3, deep in their own territory. But at that point, they had no choice. It was a 16-3 ball game. What do? You either concede there, or you try to get the first down and extend the game. Well, they went for it. And guess what? Joe Burrow, same type of thing. And look, I don't want to hear 100%. He was 100%, but I don't care. He was out there, so he's a player just like anybody else. He tried to roll out, and all of a sudden he realized, I'm not 100%. And guess what? Myles Garrett is just an absolute freak human being. Myles Garrett closed down Joe Burrow, swings him to the ground, and that was it. That was the ball game right then and there. The Browns were still able to come back, obviously get the ball down close. Of course, Deshaun Watson hits Harrison Bryant for a touchdown. Sorry, James Hudson. I think you thought maybe you were going to have a possibility to catch that ball. But this Browns defense, and look, there's not enough that can be said about the secondary and the way they played today. And it was Ward, and it was Emerson, and it was Newsome. It was inside. It was outside. These guys were phenomenal today. And Greg Newsome, for a guy who doesn't want to play slot, he played the slot today, and he played it ridiculously well all over Boyd today. Higgins taken out of the game. Jamar Chase, just a guy out there who 5 for 39 for Jamar Chase. Cleveland is Cleveland. Well, good luck with that, Jamar Chase, because that is going to be a meme you're going to live down for probably the next 17 weeks until we get to week 18. The Browns defense came correct today. They came ready to play today. And still, this is a team that's going to grow. This is a team that's still got to mesh. This is a team that still has to understand each other on the defensive side of the ball. But you came out today against a team that 2 years ago played in the Super Bowl. Last year, played in the AFC Championship game. And the Browns defense made the Bengals look like they were way back in the day and were no good. They didn't look like the Cincinnati Bengals we've seen over the last couple of years. And this Browns defense did it themselves. Major credit to Jim Schwartz and his crew. And this is just the beginning, just the tip of the iceberg. We all think the potential of this defense is to be top notch. And guess what? We got to see it today. We'll get to see it again next week against Pittsburgh Steelers. By the way, Pittsburgh, how you feeling after your day today? Jeff Lloyd, your latest Locked On Browns, segment 3, coming next. Get ready for the NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use, and you can bet on everything from spreads to player props and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the season with an offer you won't want to miss. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Jeff Lloyd, segment 3, as we close out here, your latest Locked On Browns victory Monday. Cleveland Browns 24-3 winners over the Cincinnati Bengals. And I appreciate all of you who make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. The everyday crowd keeps on growing, and the best thing I can suggest to all of you is to get in with the in crowd by subscribing to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Of course, Locked On Browns is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcast. Some thoughts here, some closing thoughts. We're going to give some game balls. First things first, Dustin Hopkins. Look, easy peasy, man. Just make the easy kicks. Make the gimme kicks. 3 for 3. And if you want to get a little more excited about your new kicker, first tackle of the 2023 Cleveland Browns season, kicker Dustin Hopkins. Talk about a guy who was excited to get out there today. But just make your kicks. And you saw that with Dustin Hopkins today. 3 for 3. Look, I've mentioned that Dustin Hopkins is not going to give you the wow factor that Cade York did where, hey, he may drill a 58-yarder. I don't need you to drill a 58-yarder. I need you to make from 42. I need you to make from 39. I need you to make from 45. That is what you need to do. The other stuff, gravy. But if you're a really, really good football team, you don't need to bank on the fact that your kicker can hit from 58, 59, 60 yards. Just make the kicks you're expected to make. And that's what you saw from Dustin Hopkins today, and probably has already become a Cleveland Browns legend in just a short time being here, of course. With game balls, Nick Chubb, look, there were times, and look, this Bengals defense is difficult to run against at times. DJ Reader, of course, BJ Hill, the linebackers. It's a really, really solid unit. And you saw Pratt play well today as well. You have to be patient. And it's difficult to be patient against this deep because they have so much penetration. It's hard to think backside. It's hard to think cutback. But you saw that from Nick today. 5.9 yards per carry, over 100 yards. Nick Chubb. And we haven't seen anything of Nick this entire summer. And the Browns kind of knew what they had to do because it's not Nick, it's not Kareem, it's not DeEarnest anymore. It's Nick, and you saw Jerome Ford. And here's the craziest thing, guys. Jerome Ford got all of his preseason work in today in the fourth quarter of this game. When was the last time the Browns were able to use a regular season game like a preseason game? But Jerome Ford was able to get in the work that he needed today, getting 15 carries. But Nick just steady and consistent. So, 18, 19 carries, 106 yards, the cutbacks, the big ones. And I said again, they were going to go a little bit more outside zone. That probably was the game plan this year. They probably are going to play more inside zone. But you really cannot do this against this Bengals defense. The Browns stuck what always works against the Bengals, and it continued to work today to the tune of over 200 yards on the ground. Elijah Moore, the numbers won't wow you. They certainly won't. But you got a glimpse and you got a clear vision of what the Browns think they got in a player like Elijah Moore. The 33-yard reception, obviously, that started the fireworks to, turn this into a blowout. The 19-yard rush earlier before that led to the touchdown before halftime. That gave the Browns 10-0 going into the 10th. It's burstability. It's explosiveness. It is, huge plays. It doesn't have to be, 10 touches, 80-something yards, a 33 here, a 19 here. You saw what the Browns think they have in Elijah Moore. So obviously a game ball for Elijah Moore as well. If I'm going to give one out on the defensive side of the ball, I am going to start absolutely with Grant Delpit. It has been such a rocky road for Grant Delpit in his time here with the Browns. Whether it was, the COVID year, the COVID summer, getting to watch the training camp practices on YouTube, and you saw he was all over the place. And then all of a sudden, the Achilles injury. Now Grant Delpit is gone for the entire year. Second season, dinged up, and it took a while. But guess what? Second half of his second year was really good. Third season was a little injured early, but again, Grant Delpit finished out the year strong. This is the first time we've gotten to see Grant Delpit healthy to begin a season, and we've gotten to see everything the Browns thought it could be with the second round selection that they had made with him back in the day. Got a nice big hit in on his old college teammate in Joe Burrow, all over the place, making hits, making plays. Grant Delpit, and for as much talk as Thornhill and McLeod get for being brought here, it was a really, really nice day for Grant Delpit. This is a guy who, has been through a ton here in his time and has never been part of a really good safety unit. So sometimes when the whole unit is weak, the finger gets pointed at the whole unit as opposed to saying, well, he's not playing bad, but so-and-so isn't. It was a huge, huge day for Grant Delpit. Really, really excited to see it. Taki Walker, JOK. You see what this is doing for the linebacker unit, having legit defensive line play in front of them. Linebackers are supposed to be able to just feel free, read, react, not have to deal with getting off of blocks, not having to deal with heavy traffic in their path to getting to the ball carrier. And you're starting to see that. We're blind to it as Browns fans. We truly are, because we haven't seen it in years. But you start to see it now when you have competent, top shelf defensive line play, like it looks like this D line can be, and linebackers just running around making plays. And you talk about Walker coming off injury in this game, and Sione Takitaki coming off injury in this game. It was really nice to see for these guys. And look, Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, Martin Emerson. You can't say enough superlatives. These guys went out there toe to toe with the top wide receiver trio in the entire NFL, and it was a knockout. The Browns cornerbacks owned these dudes today. So kudos to them. They stepped up to the challenge. The Browns defense stepped up to the challenge. Joe Burrow, the boys, Cleveland is Cleveland. The Cleveland Browns got it done today and sent that team back south to Kentucky and said, look, you may win what you win, but you still are an inferior team to the Cleveland Browns. And that's a fact. The Cleveland Browns are a better team than the Cincinnati Bengals. It doesn't mean the Bengals haven't had their success the last couple of years, but they cannot handle the Cleveland Browns. Offensively, look, Deshaun, not his best day, but was able to make play with his legs. Nick Chubb, Elijah Moore, you got to see the vision of what's going on there. Defensively, Jim Schwartz and his defense, absolutely incredible. There's no other word for it. I'm Jeff Floyd. This is now my 7th season covering the Cleveland Browns for you here on Locked On Browns. 2 for 2, 2 years in a row. Cleveland Browns win an opener. First place victory Monday. I appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. For all of the people in the everyday crowd, I suggest you bring more in as everybody subscribes to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. And of course, the show is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcasts. This has been your daily delivery of Victory Monday on Locked On Browns. LGB and the LLB. Let's go Browns.